So, welcome everyone. I am so excited to have you all here with me today. I'm so honored to have people from in my town and around the world gathered together. As you may know, this theoretically was going to be a live event at the Living Seed here in New Paltz, New York tonight. It was going to be a one-woman show in which I was going to really perform all these different pieces of the book for you. And then, things happen. Things changed slightly. So instead of that, I shifted things a bit in order to hold what the book seemed to need, what we all seem to need, what this time seems to need, in order to give us all a chance to dive into this idea of sovereignty, what it means for us as individuals, what it can mean for us as part of the collective, and give us another chance to all be together in a new way right now. So I'm going to do a few, I want to give you a kind of a layout of what to expect as we go through tonight. And just again, want to express my deepest gratitude for all of you for being here with me. So we first begin with this, just as the book does. I'm not sure, actually, I would love to see, I want to see all of you, just to get an idea, how many of you have read the book, know of the book, kind of have some of the ideas, or kind of is acceptable. I love it's just, Noelle's here. Hi, sweet lady. It's so cool to have, it feels like there's stars here, like everyone who's mentioned in my acknowledgements at the beginning, like so many of you are all here. So I'm so grateful. You don't need to know a single thing about the sovereignty knot, but if you do, I hope it'll just enhance whatever it is you already know. But the book itself begins with this idea of fáilte, which is welcome in Irish. And that is what I want anyone who ever reads anything I ever write to feel, but all of you to feel here tonight. And so this is this idea of get cozy, be yourself in all of this. I want us to have room to laugh and maybe to cry and to go deep and to be whatever this experience needs to be for you. And we're all just along for a ride together. So we're going to start tonight with a story that will be familiar to you if you've read chapter 2 of the book. But I want to tell a story that will take you with me in terms of the greatest sovereignty ride of my life in many ways. And then we're going to talk a little bit about the archetypes of sovereignty, the princess, the queen, and the wise woman, and what it means to free the princess, crown the queen, and embrace the wise woman, and be all three all the time throughout our lives, no matter how old we are or what we've seen or what we've experienced, what we haven't experienced. And we're going to get into a little bit of why that's so important right now. And that I think I had no idea, of course, that I was writing a book for this moment, but I feel as if there's so much to be said for why we need these archetypes more than ever right now. And then we're going to go into a little bit of a guided journey. I want to take you into your own cave of the sovereignty goddess and give you a chance to just imagine what that might be like. So there's no pressure around meditation. If you're the most adept or you're totally new at it, I'm going to lead you every step of the way. And everything you see or don't see is exactly what needs to happen. And then we're going to close out with just some time together. I have a whole big stack of books here that I would love to sign for you, that I would love to send to you, because I'm really excited to send the sovereignty knot with a sovereignty note, because I'm going to send a little bit of something to all of you, pulling from my tarot cards. If you buy a book, I'm going to draw a card, get an idea for you, and send that to you. So that's the general lay of the land. I'm so grateful to see all of you in the chat. I'm trying to do that multiple task thing of like reading and not reading at the same time. So just thanks to all of you thanks Melissa for wanting to buy a book. And I love coming with nothing and coming with everything. That's what we're all here to do, right? So let's settle in. Non-ordinary reality time is now, right? Let's all enter into non-ordinary reality. That's what this all is meant to be. And the way I want to start this, before we dive into the story, especially if you haven't necessarily gotten an idea of what this sovereignty idea is, the book is there for some of those definitions, but I want to really give us an invocation. I want to help you feel what it's like, right? So I'm actually going to read a little bit from the book. And then, so just close your eyes and just let this kind of come through and see what comes through. Because luckily Mairead and Moira are upstairs, so they're doing what they need to do. But when I was right as I was finishing the book, Mairead, who was 5 then, she's 6 now, she came up. We're actually at my aunt and uncle's beach place, and she walks out the door and she said, "Mom, what's women's sovereignty?" And I was like, hey, she's paying attention. This is great. And I needed to have an instant answer. And in that moment, as I was like tripping over, going in the door, I said, it's the power to know who you are, what you want, and how you want to help the people on the planet. So that's the most basic definition. So all of our 5-year-old selves know exactly as much as Mairead does. So now let's go into this invocation style. Because you are called to stand sovereign in your own life. When you are sovereign, you know who you are and what you want. You know how you're called to show up, heal, and serve the world. Your sovereignty is your sacred sense of self. It's your sense of agency and your ability to exert a healthy measure of control over your thoughts, your actions, and your destiny. Your sovereignty is your inviolable right to physical, emotional, and spiritual freedom. And yes, we can have access to that even when we have to stay inside and stay separate. When you embody sovereignty, you have full access to your creative potential. And right now, the world needs you to have access to your creativity like never before. We seek personal sovereignty not because we're narcissists, just in it for the power and the glory. We invest in our own sovereignty in order to support the collective. When you nourish yourself in order to restore your own sovereignty, you are preparing yourself to offer healing to the world. To affect the geopolitical landscape or even get something to change at the village hall, you have to do your own work first. You start in your body and mind and heart, and then you move out into your garden or your yard. That's where you get grounded and learn to use the energy of the earth to give yourself the strength, confidence, and endurance you need. Then you're able to transform the emotional ecosystem inside your home and throughout your family system. Rooted into healthy, loving relationships, perhaps after a period of uprooting and reseeding, you're able to reach into the community and across our digital web to do the work of making our world more beautiful, bearable, and bold. So hold on to that. See what pieces of it intrigue you. And by the way, you all may know me as your writing coach. You could take notes and write something down for yourself and dive into that later. Just a suggestion. Because there are, of course, writing prompts throughout the book. So first we read, and then we tell a story. And I want to tell a story that is in the book, but that deserves to have the life of being told as I might tell it to you if we were sitting down. I just saw Catherine's response of, holy shit, I'm in the right place. Amen, sister. You are, and I'm super glad you're here. So I want you to imagine a spring day in 2018 when we'd never even thought of things like border closures and travel restrictions and anything other than occasionally people get sick, but we don't worry about it. Another time when we used to travel and get on airplanes. And I got on an airplane and was in Ireland for the first time in 14 years. Now, this particular morning, I think of it as a bit of gray sweater weather. It promised neither sunshine nor rain, but we didn't care. My aunt and my cousin and my daughter and I were American tourists with a nice warm car and a destination. Now, we'd spent the night at a big house in Mayo. My cousin was an au pair, and they were kind enough to put all of us up for a night. And it was a wonderful, wonderful evening. And it was a wonderful morning with breakfast. A very, very, very long breakfast. We're talking every single piece of Irish breakfast that has ever been in an Irish breakfast happened on this particular morning. And I was trying really hard to be nice because we had to go. We were due to be in Roscommon by noon, and apparently I was the only person left in the family who could tell time because everybody else was on tea time, like perpetual, yes, I'll have more black pudding. Of course, I'd like some more toast. Do you have any marmalade time? I was breathing. My sister is, yes, it was the pace of man. There's my mom's side of the family has their own time frame. And they didn't have mine at that moment. But eventually they fit all the toast and all the tea into themselves that they possibly could. And I kept my cool. We expressed our gratitude, which I did feel as well. They expressed it too many times because it was taking too long. We needed to get on the road. This was the end of a 10-day trip. So of course, at the end of that time, families start to get a little, close. We all may know this feeling right now, right? We're experiencing that closeness happening. So, and I needed to get us going. And they got in the car. They fit all of their American luggage in the car, and I was so proud of them. And we got on the road. And now I have been driving on the wrong side of the road for a total of 4 days. I was feeling like an absolute pro. And I was ready to not only meet the speed limit, but maybe even exceed it a little bit because we needed to be in Roscommon by noon. And of course, there's no direct way to get anywhere in Ireland, especially when you're trying to get from Mayo to Roscommon. So we're doing it. And I'm driving all, 47 miles an hour. My aunt's saying, Jesus, Marisa, every time we got near a hedgerow, which was constantly. But we made it. We kept going. But eventually I realized that there was no way I could drive fast enough to make up for this because, of course, there's someone waiting for us in Roscommon, and he didn't really seem like he was going to be the kind of guy who could deal with Americans on their own time frame. And I was a woman on a mission. So I decided there was nothing I could do but practice magic. Now, I have in the past practiced this kind of road trip magic. If you're a mom who's been worried about leaving her kid at the curb and having them be the very last one, do you remember that feeling of absolute anguish? I've tried to save my children from this. So I have practiced this kind of road trip magic. And it's a little bit like, if you can imagine time as a great big table, it's like reaching underneath the table and starting to pull on the tablecloth. And you're kind of pulling at the warp and the weft of time. And you have absolutely no idea what you're doing, but you're absolutely certain you're going to do it right because you have no choice but to be at the place on time, even though you know it's probably impossible. But I was going to work this magic. But I had two hands on the wheel and kept driving. And I got to tell you, in the end, we ended up beating that guy to our destination. And I don't exactly know how I did it, other than the fact that I practiced magic. Now, you might want to say that it was just that, cars happened to pull off to the side of the road at the right point, or that maybe I had overestimated how long it was going to take. All I know is that magic is the art of changing consciousness at will. And you may know that definition. It comes from Starhawk, who I'm looking at Jessica right now, remembers me reading that all throughout my 20s. She is the neo-pagan author who inspired so many of us throughout the late 20th century, let's say. That magic is the art of changing consciousness at will. And because I was able to perform this kind of magic, I didn't actually yell at my beloved family. I did actually make it to where I needed to be on time. Now, I haven't really told you where we're going. Roscommon, it's a big county. It's very green, landlocked. But in this place is a place called Rathcrohan. Rathcrohan is the seat of Queen Maeve. She's in the book. I love her story. It's a very complicated and difficult and magical story. I don't want to talk to you about what happens above ground at Rathcrohan, but it's a beautiful green rolling place full of these great mounds that used to be their palaces. Because of course, 2,000 years ago, you were happy with a mud hut. We went on a tour above ground. And then the thing I really needed was the cave. There's a cave at Rathcrohan called a Wennegat. And I hadn't known about this place for all that long. I'd read about it in a book by Sharon Blackie, and I was, maybe just a couple years before. But a few months before this trip to Ireland, I was listening to a podcast, as we do in our American homes, while cleaning my daughter's bedroom and changing the spring clothes for the summer or something like that. And I listened to this podcast interview with this guy who would be our guide to take us into a Wennegat, the Cave of Cats, it's called, but it's also known as the Gateway to Hell, or the birthplace of the goddess. This place had been calling to me in a way that I didn't even know how much I needed to be there. But I performed road trip magic to get there. I'd moved heaven and earth to go from being the mom who was stuck at home and could never imagine traveling anywhere, after so many years of saying, not me, not enough, I gotta be stuck at home, to being there. So when we first met our guide, there was two things that I figured one of two things was true, right? It was either that the mud of a Wennegat had been vastly oversold, or it was that this particular fellow was not going to go down with us into the belly of the earth. He was dressed wonderfully. We were dressed like people who were going to go inside the belly of the earth and get ready totally covered in mud. Because let me tell you, it was one of the muddiest places I've ever been in my entire life. It's like, well, they talk about going into the belly of Mother Earth. This was like you had to walk right into her vagina. You had to really kind of crab walk your way through this V in the earth. So I do it with my cousin who's in her 20s, my daughter who's 8 years old. My aunt was the wise woman who stayed up at the top. We go inside this cave. It was the darkest place I've ever been in my entire life, the slipperiest, muddiest place I've ever been in my entire life that I couldn't actually see. And it was exactly what I needed to do, because I was listening to a call that I didn't even know I needed to answer. We probably spent about 10 minutes inside. It's only about 40 feet long. Eventually, my daughter decided that she'd had enough. She got spooked. So I was in there by myself for a couple of minutes. Felt like forever. And in that moment, I heard a voice as clear as I've ever heard anything. And maybe you've heard this voice too, from whoever it is, from the other side, from the other world, who needs your attention. There was a voice, and she told me to call her More. So this, of course, this cave, a Wennegat, is known to be the birthplace of the Morrigan, who is an Irish goddess, a Celtic goddess of death and life, of battle, of renewal, of darkness, the kind of shadows that so often we're afraid to explore, but are every bit a part of our human existence. She tugged on my sleeve, and she didn't have much to say in that moment, but she pretty much said, I'm here and I'm not going anywhere. And she came back with me, kind of like a fairy hitchhiker. And she's been part of my life and my story ever since. It was because of her in that moment in 2018 that I finally learned just enough about sovereignty to begin this book, to continue this work that has been growing inside of me since I was in my 20s, in my teens, and first starting to yearn for something more than this is the way the world should be. This is the status quo. So in this story that I knew I had to tell you all tonight, it was as much because I wanted you to get to know me and why a lot of this stuff matters to me, and because I'm still pretty proud of the way that I did the road trip magic and made it and didn't kill anybody in the process. But it's also because in telling this story, there is a perfect example of the princess, the queen, and the wise woman. And it's not because my daughter was there acting every bit the princess. It's not because I was there potentially being the queen. It's not because my aunt was there being the wise woman above the ground. Instead, it's how all of these things were in me in this moment. Because And I know this is something that when people first pick up the book, they go, princess, I'm past that. I don't want to be that. I want to invite you to say, yes, I want my princess to be part of me for every single day of my life, because it's that princess who got me to be brave enough to adventure down into that hole, to say, I have no idea what is waiting for me there, but I know that I need to go. The princess was the one who led the way, the great adventurer who didn't care how muddy her boots got. And then there's the queen. I was every bit the queen in that moment too, because there's nothing like taking your 8-year-old into a sacred space that's really, really dark. And like, it might be a national heritage site, but this is not Disney World. Like, no one has ever been in there to make any ounce of this place safe. If you fall and break an ankle in there, I hope you can crawl out, is pretty much what the spirits of the land are saying. I was the queen, and I knew that everyone was going to be safe, though. I had a plan. I had a couple of flashlights. We were doing it. And there was the part of me that was the wise woman, that was smart enough to be present enough to feel the presence of something greater than me. I knew that everybody was up above the earth, a little bit impatient, but it didn't matter, because I needed to be in that moment of absolute stillness. And so I just want to use this as our way in, to remember that you are all three, that you get to be all three. And then when you come out of the cave, metaphorical or otherwise, into this beautiful day that we emerged into on that April day in County Roscommon in 2018, I emerged with this sense of sovereignty and knowing it's possible to put together all the pieces of who I am in this moment. So we're going to take our own adventure into a cave. And I wanted, before we do that, I'm going to tell you all a little bit more about this idea of the sovereignty goddess, because I know that perhaps the divine feminine and the goddess is something that some of us use as part of our everyday language, and she may not be part of your everyday language. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. But before, I just want to know if anybody has any questions or things they want to drop in. I think you can unmute yourself if you want to just say anything or ask anything. I love seeing your comments, everybody in the chat. I really appreciate it. Does anybody have anything they want to drop in before we keep going?
I do.
Yeah, Laura. Is that you?
Yeah, it's Laura.
Hi.
God, I love seeing your face. Oh my God, I love your book. Oh my God, I love you. I love you. Irish Glass, Queen of my heart, Queen of all. And I guess what I want to say is, I mean, this is an odd thing to share perhaps for many, but so much of what you're talking about is about magic. And I'm sort of in the magic profession because of shamanism. It's like miracle work, you know? Yeah. And I remember a journey when I was in the 3-year intensive with Michael Harner, where we had to journey to someone who was dead to learn their wisdom. So everybody was picking Jesus Christ and Buddha and, you know, the top 10 classics. So let's just put it that way. But I chose Tolkien.
Oh.
And so in this journey, I became Tolkien. And I could see my own male, large, wrinkled hands. And I could see the leaded window outside my window at university. And I could see the writing of the ring. And so I am both there observing and I am Tolkien. And that's the way shamanism works. And I'm sorry I can't explain it better, but there it is. And so I asked, what is magic? How does it happen? Because he is one of our most magical writers.
Yeah, of course. And
what he said is, when suffering and battle meet compassion, that is where magic is born. So I just, as you are magical, I I wanted to share that because we're at a time where there is so
Yeah.
much suffering.
Oh.
And it is a time when there is so much compassion. So much magic is being made down
Yeah.
to, and I could talk for like 487 hours straight, so I'll stop with it. But
Oh.
we're financially so challenged. And yesterday, a neighbor dropped off a credit card so I could go online to buy, wait for it, flour. Toilet paper and flour are in like
Yeah,
large
that's
demand.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And so now I have this gourmet flour coming from this company I never heard of because you can't get Pillsbury anymore.
Right.
And that is magic. I'm sorry, that is magic. As will be the
Mm.
baking of the bread and the cakes that I will share with the people that gifted me the stuff. I mean,
Mm.
we are
Oh,
living in the weather of magic right now, I think.
yeah. Oh, thank you,
Thank you
Laura.
for being a magician.
Thank you for
And I wish I
being
had
a
Brenna's
gift.
crown on, which
Oh, yeah.
is magical, but I don't.
Oh,
So
that's
I'll
okay.
shut up now because
You're
I
perfect. Thank
should.
you for this. Thank you for suffering and compassion. Thank you for giving us, this is what I wanted from tonight is, yes, this is not, it's my show. It's not just my show, right? It's this sense of wherever we can drop something into the cauldron together, we're all going to grow and benefit from it. So thank you, Laura. Suffering and compassion. That's just, oh, I want to see this in writing. I hope you've told this story.
I'm writing something about being in the undertow and how comfortable it can be. That's what I'm trying to write now. But
Oh,
this
awesome.
is what you're writing, not mine. I'm shutting up.
You're
It's
beautiful.
so
You're
hard.
perfect. No worries. No worries. No worries. And it gives me a chance to breathe because, of course, this endless sense of throwing my own voice into the
Well,
internet is beautiful and hard.
okay, I
So,
just have to say this one more thing. You are amazing. I am 68. I'm in self quarantine for 12 weeks. I'm
mm,
trying to serve, and I look at your blooming face. I look at the glow of you and slowly read, because of my eyes,
mm,
Sovereignty Knot. And thank you for being a magic and mischief maker.
thank you.
You are so much a treasure.
Oh, thank you, my dear Laura.
And that's a
Thank
really
you.
bad sentence. You are so much a treasure.
Yeah, we all need editors. It's okay. It keeps me in business. It's all okay. It's all okay. Awesome. So let's keep playing with this. Let's keep weaving these pieces because I know we all have stories to tell. We could all go so deep in here together. So thank you, Laura, for adding your voice to this.
I love you.
I love you too. So let's talk for a minute about, well, magic, because all of this is about magic, right? I want to talk a little bit about this idea of the Celtic sovereignty goddess and why she mattered to me then and why she matters to us now. And just to help you get a little window into some of, well, the language to me that's just shorthand, right? The things that we know for sure become the things that are easiest to say. So the sovereignty goddess comes from the Celtic tradition. Ireland, Scotland, Wales especially have the stories most strongly. And the thing about the sovereignty goddess is that she is at once the land itself and she is the divine human creature that comes to speak for the land, to interact with the people. And so the sovereignty goddess herself is a rather unique soul in that in her idea of meddling with the affairs of men, she would have affairs with men, in that she would choose the king, were he worthy of her, were he worthy of the land, if he was a good roll in the hay, essentially. So I understand this is rather heteronormative. It's an old myth, so we'll go with it being very masculine and feminine. But the sovereignty goddess really was looking for a guy who could please her. Because if he could please her, he could please the people of this particular patch of the planet, right? She was searching for someone who could be a good steward, someone who could care for not only the earth itself, but for its people. And so when I kind of rediscovered the sovereignty goddess. I forgot her for a good portion of my 20s because I was too busy trying to have a real job. When I rediscovered her, I recognized that in her was that connection, reconnection to the earth, which is why, of course, when I entered into a cave, all of a sudden the sovereignty message came and made so much more sense to me, right? And this is something that all of us need right now because she wants to talk to us about who we are as leaders. She wants to work with us in order to help us figure out how we're going to tend to the planet and its people. And if she happens to have something to say about who is our leader at the state or national level, perhaps, certainly she'd like us to pick more worthy leaders, right? So just think of the sovereignty goddess next time we all get to exercise our chance to vote, and may all of us vote with the spirit of sovereignty, the true goddess sovereignty, next time. It's coming up. So she is everything to me right now, in the sense that, knowing that all we can do, like, I'm fortunate enough to have land outside. I can go and bring the kids outside and play and be with her right now. But as we're trying to find our way through, and if you are in a city and stuck inside and feel like even going to the park is too hard right now, I hold you in my heart, and all of us who have that ability to go out and hike and be in the earth send you our mother love and send you our energy, that you hopefully will have that soon as well. But that's why we need her so much right now, right? And the other piece of the story that feels so important is, now, when you read the book, you'll recognize there's a few different goddesses that get mentioned. Oh, that's my one other thing. I want to leave this at, kind of drop this into the cauldron too. When I talk about goddesses, I really don't care if you believe in them. That's the least interesting thing to me on the planet. I'm not even necessarily sure that I believe in them. Instead, these beings are major figures in the mythic imagination, let's say. They are the same, they come from that same world that gives us myth and fairy tale and symbols on tarot cards, and makes things that make consciousness into something really real and tangible. So when you dive into this book, when you start thinking sovereignty goddess, what? Let it just be part of the great, expansive, beautiful furniture of the soul, and see how you want to rearrange these pieces and how they will best help you understand what you're doing here and why you're alive at this time. So one more word about these goddesses and why they choose us and why they come through. And this was a piece that, well, so Moore appeared right in that story. And I don't say that much about her in the book because, well, she's a hidden goddess. By her very nature, she is someone who is elusive. Her story isn't about being seen, it's about seeing. It's about helping you see world in a new way, with all of its shadow and all of its light. And so right now, it feels more pressing than ever to say her name out loud, because we are all in this moment of needing to really acknowledge death and life and death, and being with this sense of mortality and infinity that she represents. So I'm not going to go too much deeper with her for now, other than it feels important and to say for her that her message matters, and this ability to go into the cave and to enter those places within us and not be so frightened of them, but to allow them to be part of our truth, is something that just needs to be said aloud. And just giving myself permission to say, I don't have a point with this one other than because she told me I needed to say it, is enough of a reason. And that in and of itself feels like where a lot of us need to be. So with all of this as something of an introduction, of a wandering through a here and a there, I want to take you into a cave, the cave, a cave that I actually found in my own mythic imagination years before I ever came to Awenagat. I never really put these two together until the process of writing the book, because of course it's in telling a story that we start weaving meaning and seeing connections, and time starts to have a lot less meaning, in the sense that it's not linear. It's meant to be the knot, right? Like we're constantly swooping up and down and through and back. And the thing that we realized 8 years ago doesn't mean as much until 6 years ago. And then when we sit down and we write it all down, then it has another meaning. And then I get to tell you it all again. That's 4 layers of different ways to understand one cave or many caves or a metaphorical cave. So I first entered this cave when I had a small baby. I'm not even sure which baby was small, but they're 6 and 10 now. So it was somewhere back then. And it was like a living dream that stuck with me. And so I want to take you all with me into my living dream so it can become something of your living dream. And this is one of those moments of, I don't know, however much guided journeying you've done before, about sitting back, getting comfortable. I always need to take my glasses off, so I make sure I'm using my inner vision and not my outer vision in order to really see. And there's no right and there's no wrong. And if you follow me exactly, that's perfect. And if you find you go off and somewhere else, I mean, if you need to go to a mountain instead of a cave, goddess bless you. I would love to hear why and how, and tell me what happens. But follow along as much as you feel the need, and see what happens. So we're going to get quiet for a little while as we do this. And I understand that sometimes, especially when it's getting to be, close to 8 o'clock at night, who knows what time we all started our days. Sometimes we want to get really quiet after going into a journey like this. And that's totally okay. If you feel like you need to drop off the call, you're not going to participate anymore tonight, that's totally fine. I'd love you to stay. But I just want to kind of allow that as something that's totally great in any way that you need to do it. You may want to write down a few things after this, what ideas come through. But we will be coming together at the other side to talk about what comes through, what messages you get, to raise a glass, to be together a bit more. So let's begin. So get comfortable. This is the part where you root into the floor, whether it's snuggling into the couch a little more, whether it's feeling your feet on the floor beneath you, your seat underneath you. And get ready for a journey, which is something rather novel for all of us right now, right? You have been called to emerge from your dwelling place. It's safe to breathe the air here. It's okay to walk beside these sovereignty seekers. This is why we have the mythic imagination. On this journey, you've brought with you everything you think you need to survive: food and soap and whatever modern beings think they need, but also a quill and ink, a collection of healer's herbs, a satchel of diapers and swaddling cloths, prophecies from your gods, or simply the overflowing matter of your own heart. These are dangerous, difficult times for sure, but you are a warrior. You fight darkness with your own special medicine. You are awake to the calling to come as you are, with gifts that you have gathered so far in your journey. The people who walk beside you now, it seems like there's hundreds. They speak in different dialects and come from different tribes, but you trust that you are united by a common purpose, and that purpose creates peace. You have not walked this path before, yet you feel drawn and destined to see where it leads. You walk this path with your blessed warrior's weapons in order to more deeply connect with your own power and craft. Cutting down long slopes into a valley, you see other groups of travelers. All of you will walk along the riverbed until you reach the great cave just above the edge of the water on the western shore. You enter in single file. There's no need to worry about rank or order. There is trust. There is the call. Those who doubted the mission turned back long ago. The corridor within the rock is narrow and low and dark, but again, there is trust. There is the knowledge deep within that you are entering the womb and that this is a place of safety, of revelation, of rebirth. There is light ahead. It is coming from a vent high above, yes, but the walls seem to cast their own glow as well. The air is warm and soft, and you feel like you are coming home. You emerge from the tunnel and enter a great cavern, vaster than any enclosed space you have ever seen. Your people have no concept of cathedral, but this is as great and soaring as any temple that will be built by human hands in the centuries to come. At the center of this chamber is a deep blue pool, and at the center of that, a high rock reaching to the light above. A woman sits on a throne carved from that stone. Whether by human hands or by the elements of this womb cave, you cannot tell. You get down on one knee and bow your head, knowing that you will receive a blessing, trusting that all will become clear as each moment unfurls. You and the rest of the visitors, warriors, sages, chieftains, mothers, healers, all form a ring around the edge of the pool. The woman at the center speaks and does not speak. There's a place where all stories are revealed, but where so little needs to be said. Rocks in the water, unnoticed until now, become her stepping stones. She climbs down from her throne so she can walk amongst you and stand before each visitor in turn. She places her hand on a bowed head, and then she places her hand on shoulders and bids that person rise. She leans in close and whispers low in the left ear. You long to know what she'll say to you. It seems that each visitor receives their own message. She's offering notes on sovereignty. She's helping each person free the princess, embrace the wise woman, crown the queen. When she reaches you and touches your head, you feel as if you've been opened up to taste the entire universe. You feel as if you have been purified and loved and seen and filled with infinite knowledge. When she touches your shoulders, you feel as if you've been mothered and nourished and strengthened beyond measure. And when she whispers in your ear, you hear what? Pause, listen, take her message into you. Let it illuminate the shadows within, and let her words guide your way. This is a message from the sovereignty goddess, the conveyor of power, of destiny. She's here to introduce everyone to their own gifts, their own cup of contribution. You and the sovereignty goddess are one and the same. You are being initiated into her circle, not because you're meant to be her follower, but because you're meant to become her in your own way. You are a healer, a priestess, a revolutionary. You are a warrior, an artist, a sorceress. You are an agent of transformation who refuses to accept this world as it is, who refuses to settle for the status quo. A force and source of sovereignty, you begin by recognizing your own sacred right to heal, create, and love who you are. And then you can dance with your divine obligation to offer that magic to others. Remember, the sovereign woman does not rule for her own glory, and she does not do this work for the sake of power. She becomes sovereign so she can teach this to others and empower everyone to heal, create, and love this world into its next evolutionary stage. Now that you know all this, now that you know that you are being empowered to sit on your own throne, lean toward the goddess once again. Does she have a message for you? Perhaps it's your turn to share a message with her. Listen. Listen closely. Speak to her if you feel that it's your turn. When it's time for you to leave this cave, you'll know it. You entered with a vast crowd, but now it's only you, ready to set out on your own quest. Return to the narrow tunnel, out into the open air beneath a vast sky. Now notice the world around you. Is it a bright sapphire day? Is the sun rising or setting? Are you called to begin this quest under the guidance of a sliver of new moon just peeking through the clouds? No matter what time it is, this is a new beginning, a new adventure, even if you're still within those same four walls. How are you called to be princess, to be queen, to be wise woman, to be sovereign in this strange moment and in this new future to come? So take a minute to sit with that, maybe to write down a few ideas, and know that this is something you get to keep coming back to. This is a place that you can visit again and again, and the message won't always be the same. But sometimes you'll come to this place to reconnect with the princess within you, to come back to that wild, free energy, that sense of fearlessness, that sense of being carefree, because that is allowed, that sense of laughter, that sense of being sexy for the sake of being sexy, a sense of being joy-filled for the sake of being filled with joy. And sometimes you'll come to be the queen, to learn what it is to be the woman at the head of the table, the woman with the plan, the one who knows how to have excellent executive function. Not because it's the only way to be, but because sometimes that's who you need to be, to manage the house, to manage the kids, to manage your relationships and your work. You can come to this place to remember how to be the queen. And sometimes you come to be amongst wise women, to know that this is a place where you can be still and receive information, to know that the greatest knowledge is within you, to be present for the great presence. You can always return. So if anybody feels like they want to share a little bit of what was whispered in their ears, I would love to hear it and to hear your voices. Because with beyond kind of giving you a final blessing and letting you know what I'm up to next, that's really kind of my prepared material for the evening. And I love you too, Jeff. Because I want this to be, it's my book, it's your book, it's our book. These ideas are just seeds, I think, hopefully for all of you to take forth and do something new with them. So does anybody have anything that came through they want to share?
I'll always go first. It is my nature. I'm a crone, and I love the word. I love that word. I love that word so much. And to see you, I'm getting teary. So young, so brilliant, sharing magic, redefining substantially, deeply what life is really about. Thank you. Because for 30 years, I have been writing that we love money more than life. It has been the topic of my writing for 3 decades. And so, even though I'm weeping, I feel such peace because I'm tired. 30 years of writing about that and seeing it so nakedly now in our culture. Others have to pick up the torch. I mean, I'm not saying I'm done.
Yeah.
But thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Laura,
for bringing
so
me
much to yourself.
tears. It's such a lovely waterfall.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Old friend.
Thank you, Laura. I just want to make sure that there's something else that I do in addition to hearing all of you. I just want to save some of my thank yous as well to everyone who's here. But I want to thank Elizabeth Cunningham, who's here. Just I didn't see you till now because you came up as user. Elizabeth wrote the preface to the book and has been such a brilliant mentor to me in so many ways. And I want to make sure that you all have met her, Maeve, who is in so many ways the one of the sovereignty goddesses who inspired me. And Elizabeth is one of the people who inspire me all the time. And I just want to say thank you. I'm glad you're here, and I'm deeply grateful. And I want to also honor that people are kind of coming in and sharing. Some people I think have had to go, but I want to honor that so many people are sharing here what came through for them. I read what Taylor wrote, which is, "You are magic, you are creative, be what may." That's such a perfect little way of holding that. You can walk with that one, right? You are magic, you are creative, be what may. You know, that remembering that you can find your spells for yourself that you can hold and keep walking. And we are birthing new consciousness. Be well and be one came through Pearl. And I just want to thank Pearl's become a new connection just this week. In April, she released a book herself just this past month. So she and I are going to do an author event together next month. And you'll be hearing more about that from me as things come through. Oh, I love that Heather shared it with her daughter, Maggie, who's my daughter's age. She's 10. So I love that this is something that we do share with our daughters, that this is something that, some of it we hold for ourselves. But when we can, we share it with our children, and we share it with the people in our lives, because yes, we are all women gathered here tonight, and this is women's work, but it's the feminine work. And what's most important to me is that we recognize that anybody who's willing to recognize they've got a princess, queen, and wise woman inside of them is more than welcome in this circle. Because if I've got hanging out with a man who sees that he's got feminine archetypes, thank you, brother. Let's keep playing. Let's go deeper, because that's what we all need in this new consciousness to come through and evolve. I love that you were floating in the cave, Michelle. she touched someone, she was touching me, and I looked up and saw myself. See, yes, it's about seeing yourself reflected in this, right? Um, oh, Lauren, I love that vessel came through for you. You are my vessel. Drink from the pool to fill yourself first. Yeah. You know, as cheesy as it's become, the whole like use the oxygen mask on the airplane before helping someone else, like that's kind of the truest thing that was ever said in the whole wired world. Thank you, Pan American Airlines, or whoever first put it into into speech. When we can remember that, we all have an opportunity to thrive. I want to make sure if, let's see, um, mm, um, I'm curious if anything else came through for anybody, but I want to say again, thank you all. Next Friday at noon, I am going to be, what am I calling it? I just came up with a name. One forgets the names for things. Your storyteller's voice, how to use the archetypes of sovereignty to tell stories that connect during uncertain times. So there's the soul work that we do. We go inside the cave and we find these voices, and we also make it practical because I want us to learn how to use these voices to express what we need to say. It's noon Eastern, Laura. I know it's early for you out there, but we'll do a recording. So just mark your calendar. You'll hear more from me about that. Yes, there's a link to purchase the book tonight, Melissa. Thank you for helping me with that whole side of things, because I've got boxes of books, my loves, and I would love to send them to you. So the easiest thing is, I'll just drop it right here in the link, but if you go to marisagowdy.com, my website, Kathy, thank you. If you go to marisagowdy.com, sovereignty not. And that's the main book page, but you'll see there's a brand new PayPal link right there. And all I need to do find out is who the book is for. And then you can go and follow the PayPal links to buy the book. So that I can make a little something special for you, that there's a sovereignty note that comes with your sovereignty knot, which is, I'm even more excited to send that to you than the book, because you can find the book from other places, but you can only get the sovereignty note from me. I'm not sure. I would love to know who Apple is. I love that there's this sense of like, it's as if Eve is talking through the apple. I was told that I'm always with the goddess and she's always with me. I also receive a message that I will immerse myself in the pool to emerge as princess, queen, or wise woman, depending on the circumstance. Yes, because we have access to all of those within us. And we need that. We need to remember that we can, and that's what we're called to do. I saw Apple. I don't know who Apple is. I love Apple. I love whoever you are, Apple. Oh, Beverly. Hi, Apple. You have a new nickname. Beverly's in my Sovereign Writers Circle, so I see her all the time. Usually she doesn't show up as Apple. So, I don't know where Apple came from, but we'll just take it. There is a part in the book about serpents and a little bit about Eve, but I didn't really get into the apple scenario because I think there was a version of the story that went there, but this one chapter became like half a book. But that's chapter 11 on running over a snake. I don't know. I'm not sure who. There's someone else who has a very long, very gobbledygook QRDV who just said, I want a signed book. I'm not sure who that is, but I want to send you a signed book. I could do that right now. Wow, ladies, we made it through. And I was, it's been hard and strange and weird and wonderful to have this. It's on to Shannon. Hi, Shannon. It's the gobbledygook number. Thank you, Taylor. It's been such a strange time to do this. And I just want to thank all of you for holding this space with me tonight. It was more nerve-wracking than I ever expected it to be. And I think that's where we all are right now, as we recognize what it's like to be using our voices in this moment when everything is so unclear and it feels like the story is changing all around us all the time, and figuring out where to put our energy and where to place it. is deeply difficult. And I just want us all to acknowledge that within ourselves. Like, when is it time to put something out, and when is it time to sit back and receive and just be in the nest, opposed to feeling like we need to constantly be trying to emerge from it. I think this is the part of the evening where we raise our glasses and we say cheers. Because I do have a glass of writer's tears with me, this is not the same bottle anymore, but I discovered it at the Dublin airport in 2018 when I left. And it's been a nice little break every now and again for the writer in me. So cheers to all of you. Sláinte, as they say, raising whatever it is we have in our glasses. Sláinte. So
cool.
So I get to sign a book for Michelle, and I get to sign a book for Shannon, and I get to sign a book for Melissa, and I think I signed a book for Vibba, and for Angela, and for Beverly, and for Heather. Do I do that now? Do I sign books as we sit here? I don't know. What is the?
Yes.
We're supposed to be here in person, but we're supposed to be dancing and mingling at this point, right? This is that moment where it's like it all. Are we allowed to hear our message? Oh, are you allowed to hear? No, that's going to take a little more time to bake, I think. That's such a good question, Angela. This is more. So actually, have you all? Lots of you have probably. I can't really show you my sacred space where I'm going to do the signing. But like, I'm going to be sitting at my altar, light the candles, use the stones, use the cards. And that's going to be how I'm going to spend a lot of my tomorrow. And there'll probably be children's drawings so I can somehow make it a homeschooling activity, because right now everything needs to be a homeschooling activity. If I had my other idea was I need to find somewhere in my house. I have a very big map of the United States that I wanted to help the girls learn their geography by showing them all the places we were mailing books to. So if anybody has a large United States map they're not using, I need to figure that out. You're right. I should have a Canadian map. My children are, I'm half Canadian. I shouldn't just recognize my American side. I am half Canadian. A couple generations removed. My grandparents were from there. So, I got to figure out how to get the U.S. map thing going, because it was proven that my beautiful, brilliant 10-year-old doesn't actually know her east from her west. And that was kind of what inspired this idea of like, I'm going to sell books and there's going to be a map. So somewhere, I think in the depths of the art cabinet, I have this U.S. like color it in map, or I did at one point. But because of course, when you're preparing for book launch and other things, like I'm not one of those people who gets to like clean out closets right now with my quarantine time. I just get to try to keep doing all the usual things. I haven't cleaned a blessed thing in the last 2 weeks, really, other than the simplest pieces. So I'm babbling a little bit, but it's my show. I get to
love the babble.
So
babble is best.
Teacher news. Yeah, I know. I think she just has to like draw it on the inside of her eyelids. Like she knows that they all exist. It's just knowing which way they work. Noelle, I love you. Thank you so much for being here, my dear. Noelle is was my very first readers who helped me with holding space for this. So my darlings, where's the Land of the Bear? Shannon, I want to thank you for being here. I thank everybody who has been part of this. I think I'm going to sign the books offline because just feels like the right thing to honor everybody's space and time. And I want to give you all a chance to stay with this energy if you've got it in you right now. I'll send out the recording tomorrow, so you'll have it in case you want to go back to the meditation. And actually, do you all know that the version of this meditation is available on the internet, as well as four meditations from the book. If you go to that page where you would have purchased the book, Sovereignty-Not, Marisa Gowdy, Sovereignty-Not, at the very bottom, there should be a place to leave your email address, and that will give you access into this. But I will make sure that you guys all have access to get there. It was one of those, when you do a lot yourself, the things that you forget about are some of the digital breadcrumbs that you leave out in the world. And then you forget to tell people that you created that thing 11 o'clock at night on a Wednesday when you're feeling really inspired. The joy of being a Gemini. I plant all the seeds and sometimes I forget where I put them. So, oh, my darling dears, I want to thank you all so much for being part of tonight. Please spread the word about the Sovereignty Knot. If you know anybody who has a podcast or a blog or a place in which they might want to talk about this, I would like to talk about this with them. So let me know. Setting up this call puts us on your list. Yes, Catherine, you are on my list. You will now get to hear from me a couple of times a week. I'm excited to send out a bunch of books on Monday. I am excited to see you on Friday if you want to talk more about storytelling and using these archetypes. I have some ideas about how we can decide when we want to draw on the princess or the queen or the wise woman to help us tell a story and communicate something best. Though we are all of them, sometimes one of them gets to lead. And, we can only write one word at a time. We can usually only speak in one voice at a time. So we're going to figure out how to use that. I love you all. I'm deeply grateful. Let me know what more I can do to help serve and support you in your sovereign journey. I'm here, making it up as I go along, right alongside you. So, once a week Zoom call. I do have a writers group that I should tell you guys all about. Sovereign Writer Circle meets every Wednesday to write, and we do a couple of coaching calls as well. We are a beautiful, amazing, intimate group of writers who write with prompts. Beverly's here. I'm trying to think of who else. And Dawn is here. And it's so wonderful. And Jenny is here. And hey, Patty, I didn't see you before. Hi, sweet lady. It's a gorgeous group of writers that we write at noon Eastern every week together, and have been for about more than 2 years now. And I'm in the process of kind of reimagining how the group needs to work, but between now and June, that's the model that you see on my website is how we're working it. So if you're interested, let me know. Does anybody else have any last thoughts other than thank you? The Sovereign Writer Circle is wonderful. Thank you, Apple Beverly Apple. I love you guys. I'm deeply grateful to all of you. Late night group for us owls. Yeah, that's not me anymore. I'm pretty excited to go snuggle on the couch.
Work.
All right, my loves. I'm going to unmute all of us so we can all say goodnight to each other, and I can hear all of your voices. I love you all. I'm super grateful to each and every one of you. If I didn't catch your chat, I'm going to go back and review it. I'm sorry if I missed it before.
Love you, Marisa.
Bye, everybody.
Be in touch soon.
Bye.
Go send lots of mail. I'm going to sign till my hands hurt.
Yeah.
All right. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Thank you.
Bye.
Good night.
This was wonderful.
Thank you.
Good night, everyone.
This was wonderful. Thank you so much.
You're so
Marissa,
welcome.
do a
Thank
mic
you for
drop.
being with us.
Great.
I'm gonna take out these earphones are killing me. I'm excited to take them out. I admit it. All right. Mwah. Good night, everybody.
Yay. Mwah.
Mwah.
Mwah.